So if you've been listening to me for a while now, you know my shtick is I'm one of the elder statesmen of the coaching industry, and I make fun of all the young guys with their shirts off, hanging from sides of mountains, telling you, you can do anything that you want, and they're just balls to the wall, young bucks who I can compete with. And then I met my next guest, who humbled me in so many ways, because they say hang out with people who are, if you want to mentor, if you want to follow people who are about 5 or 6 or 7 years ahead of you. And my next guest is an ultra marathoner. He's a mountain climber. And he's also one of the elite coaches in the world. So he humbles me every time I talk about me being the old guy and I'm tired and I need testosterone and I need help to, get myself up out of bed. I think about he and his wife running 50 miles at a time. Walt Hamilton, I've been calling him Walt Hamilton. Every time I go into YouTube to find him, I get sidetracked with the play, and I have to come back because my ADD goes crazy. Walt Hampton is the founder and chief executive officer of Summit Success International, a global personal and professional development firm. So he is like a coach's coach. He's the author of 2 really cool books, Journey on the Edge, Living a Life That Matters. And he would know because he's a mountain climber. He's an adventure photographer. He and his wife have done so many cool things. He also is a kindred spirit because he wrote a book called The Power Principles of Time Mastery, Do Less, Make More, Have Fun. Sound like only tens? So we are totally kindred spirits. He was also, and this is one of the interesting things that we're going to talk about, a single father of 3 while the managing director of a law firm. So he knows overwhelm, he knows responsibility, and he knows how to deal with it. So we're going to talk about all of that today. Walt, thanks for being here.
Such a privilege, such a gift to spend this time with you. Thank you for inviting me.
I appreciate it. When I get to talk to someone who's steeped in the world of business, in the world of helping people perform these days in the middle, at the what we're calling the false summit of the pandemic. I have to ask, what are you, now that we're people are getting vaccinated, we're in May of 2021. What are you finding the challenges people are dealing with right now as we come to the end of the pandemic, but not quite there?
So it's an extraordinary inflection point. We are at a once in a generation inflection point. We in our lifetimes have not been in this inflection point. 1918, 1919, at the cusp of the roaring 20s. We are on the cusp of our roaring 20s.
That's positive. I love that. I didn't expect that to come out of your mouth. So I'm really glad to hear that.
So extraordinary opportunity right now, extraordinary opportunity for existing businesses to grow and scale, extraordinary opportunities for fresh starts, for new beginnings, extraordinary opportunities. And there is deep weariness in the world. Such weariness, such sadness, such pent-up grief, such unresolved grief, such loneliness, a sense of missed opportunities, and overwhelming fatigue. And so we're at this edge of light and dark. And the challenge is, how do we lean into this moment? How do we seize this moment, even in our weariness and overwhelm?
I ran the Marine Corps Marathon about a decade ago, and I did it about an hour faster than I expected. So I get to the 0.2 mile mark, where there's 0.2 miles left. And the organizers of the Marine Corps Marathon make that an uphill climb. And when the camera snapped, I swore to God that I was smiling and high stepping and everything. And when I saw the picture, I looked like death. Right. So we're coming to the end of a marathon, right? The medal is there. Like, as you said, opportunity is there. And I got nothing.
Yes.
So would you say that?
And you did. I mean, that's what's interesting about running distance, is that you actually discover that what we're capable as human beings of doing when we lean into the moment far exceeds what our minds tell us, that, we can be carried forward.
Hmm.
And yet, early on in my marathon training, so when I married my beautiful wife, Ann, 14 years ago, she was a distance runner already. And I was a high altitude mountaineer. And she said, honey, if I'm going to do this mountaineering stuff, you're going to learn to become a distance runner. And so I ran my first marathon at age 53, and I've now done a dozen ultra marathons. But she created this marathon training schedule, and it had these weird days on them, Mark, called rest days. I was like, what are these? She said, well, those are days we don't run. And I said, well, what do you mean we don't run? We're runners. And she said, yes, but you have to rest in order to get stronger. And we know this from working out. We know this at some level. And yet when we show up in our careers and our business lives and our social lives, we just think we can go 24/7, 365. And so one of our needs, again, it's both and, it's not binary. We need to continue to move forward, to lean into this extraordinary moment, and we need to do a lot of self-care. We need to heal. We need to take care of ourselves.
I've heard you talk about the we reinvent ourselves, we recreate ourselves in play. That's when we rejuvenate and we recreate ourselves.
We did that once when we were kids, and somehow we lose the sense of play and playfulness. I think business entrepreneurship is this incredible playground where we get to wake up every single day and create anew. And I think when we can reclaim that sense of play, that sense of curiosity, it allows us to be more resourceful. When everything is a weighty problem, that just adds to the sense of grimness and fatigue and overwhelm.
How do you square that? So you obviously work with business people and entrepreneurs, and so do I. How do you square the overwhelm and the challenges of making payroll, of handling whatever changes the pandemic brought? How do you square that reality of the consequences of our actions with that play and that joy and that lightness?
Mm-hmm. So it's a timely question, because I have a new client who is a CEO, runs a big organization, and has had a lot of challenges as a result of the pandemic. There was very little middle ground in the pandemic. There were either
New
people
economies
who grew exponentially and those who really, really struggled. And this individual was somebody who really, really struggled. And so challenges with payroll and personnel departing and team engagement, all the stuff that we deal with as business coaches. And I said, well, the very first thing you need to do is you need to carve out the first 3 hours of the day for yourself.
I love that. So how'd you get him to do that though? Because I can hear
like,
the argument.
So we're 3 months into the work, and he's still arguing with me, but he's doing it. Part of coaching, of course, is accountability. And I because I only work with a handful of clients, I dog my clients, merciless. But what he has begun to see is the return on that investment, which is more resourcefulness, more resilience, more a sense of creativity and possibility. And it's a little bit paradoxical. But when we can get out of the muck and pull back, our best ideas come to us in the shower. They come to us on a long run, on a walk on the beach, a walk in the woods. And yet, so many of us just keep our nose to the grindstone, always just down and dirty in it all the time. And so my first step for dealing with the challenge that you ask about is step back.
And then what do you do when you step back?
Oh, well, the most important thing of all, nothing. In all seriousness, one of the problems, coaches are supposed to say challenges, but one of the problems is that your listeners suffer from a horrible malady called SPS. And if it lasts more than 5 hours, you should call your doctor. It's called smart person syndrome. And we think that we can think our way out of everything. And the truth is, our creativity often arises, out of here. It arises out of the empty space. And the more we can go to quiet and go to stillness and to actually listen for that still small voice within us, that's where the magic happens. That's where the magic happens. We can't connect with that deepest part of ourselves when we're always driving forward.
There's an analogy with addictions in there, where they talk about how your addiction is a lot. You're in the water and you're holding onto a log, which is your addiction. And people are saying, let go of the log, let go of the log, you'll be fine. And you're like, I can't let go of the log. But then you let go of the log, right? And which is recovery. And then you find, oh, I can stand up in the water, right? And you're good. For many of the people that I work with, and myself included, is we're so smart and so competent that we rely on that. And that's the log we're holding on to let go and say, I'm just going to sit on a cushion, or I'm going to doodle, or I'm going to drink my coffee and look out the window, is terrifying. I work with guys in New York, like New York Jews who are heady people, right? And the legs are bouncing and all that stuff. And I'm like, all right, we're going to do a 1 minute meditation. You're going to meditate for 1 minute a day. What do you mean, Mark? 1 minute? Yes, 1 minute a day. And you don't even have to meditate. You don't have to be on a cushion. It's just you sit with your coffee, no phone, stare out the window, right? And that's a challenge for people. But again, that's the first step to.
And what I love about that, Mark, is it is the clue to helping the people we serve, is if you can give them small wins, because even with a minute, people begin to go, oh, just that little space, that feels so good. That feels so good. Maybe I'll try a little bit. Maybe I'll try 2. I won't tell Mark, but I'll try 2. So if we can give the people we serve those small wins, that beachhead, I call it, then some further traction can happen. When my wife Ann helps others train for marathons, they said, well, where should I start? We'll start by, have you run before? No. Walk around the block. Walk around the block. Meditate for a minute.
Love that. Baby steps to go further than you've ever gone before. So let's go back to when you were a single dad, and
before when I had hair.
You can climb mountains, dude. We're similar in age. We're similar in age. I have a full head of black hair, but I can't climb a mountain. So hats off to you. So you're raising 3 boys. You're the managing partner of a law firm, and so when my kids were born, I realized I needed the gym. I needed my own space. So I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, left before any of the kids woke up, went to the gym, was at my desk by 7. So I started my morning routine out of absolute necessity. I'm a rabid introvert. I need my time. So you started a morning routine. You started realizing you had to get up. How did you really pry that time? How did you make that shift to know that you needed time in the morning when you're so busy for yourself?
So I'm a highly compensating introvert as well. And half of your listeners are introverts, and probably highly compensating introverts, and that's okay. Introverts need to go to quiet. And so
what do you mean highly compensating?
Well, if you said to somebody, like you just said that on the air here, that you're an introvert, people go, "Oh, you're not shy, Mark."
Right.
So people can equate introversion with like recluse or being recluses. There's nothing that makes me happier than getting on a big stage and speaking. I'm not shy, in case your listeners are wondering. But I go to quiet to recharge. An extrovert generally seeks out other people to recharge. A great book on that is Susan Cain's Quiet, a really good book that helped me embrace my introversion. So introverts do need quiet more than extroverts. like with you, my morning routine, it was the only way for me to keep the wheels on the cart because there was nobody helping me. I was raising three boys on my own. And my youngest, when I started that gig, was, I think, just finishing kindergarten. And so it was a madhouse for me because, I was taking the kids to daycare, dropping the kids off, grabbing the file to go to court, arriving court barely on time, and then the daycare provider is saying, "Yeah, I think Luke has a fever or head lice or both again," and it was like, oh, the entire day is off the rails. So I would get up at like 6:30 in the morning and be rushing around getting the kids ready to go to school and packing the backpacks and mediating the fights and getting the breakfast, and it was just breathless. And I needed a little island for myself, and I was too tired at the end of the day. I was completely worn out because then, in the evening you have to go out to Staples at 8:30 in the evening to get the poster board for the project that's due tomorrow, because so I had to carve out a little bit of time. And so I thought, like with the 1 minute, I wonder what it would be like to wake up 15 minutes earlier, like 6:15. Oh, well, that was pretty good. And so I just began to gradually back it up and to go earlier and earlier, because with each increment, I just thought, oh my God, now I can actually do my sitting meditation now consistently in the morning for 20 minutes. Oh, how good is that?
Mm.
And so I began to back it up further and further. And to this day, so I ultimately backed it up to 4:15 in the morning. And to this day, I still get up every morning at 4:15 because it's so good.
It's so essential. You're the only person in the world I've heard admit to this, that I do exactly the same thing. I call it my coffee meditation. My Zen teacher, no caffeine before you meditate. I get up in the morning, I have my coffee, and then you talked about Julia Cameron's morning pages, right?
Yes.
3 pages of stream of consciousness. I hate the day. I hate this. I love this. And I call it, the third page is where page 3 wisdom, where intuition starts to come up. All the cool stuff comes there.
So sometimes.
But I get up. I have my
Yes.
coffee. So I look forward to getting up to have my coffee with my
I
turmeric.
know.
I do my morning pages. I read a little bit, and then I meditate.
That's exactly what I do.
I've never heard anybody talk about that before, and it
Yes.
works for me. I
It
don't
works.
like getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and sitting on my cushion. That
No, I would,
doesn't
I would, I would fall back to sleep.
doesn't give me what I need.
Yes. And that's an important teaching point, because the principles that we teach are really sound principles, and they work, and they don't work for everybody, and they don't work in exactly the same way that you and I would do. But the invitation I always give to my audiences is, take some of this stuff and play with it, experiment with it, be willing to look at it in different ways and see if it works for you.
Something else that you say really resonated with me. I'm not actually a naturally happy person. I'm not a naturally motivated person.
Mm-hmm.
I was homeless at 27. I'm a drug addict. Like all
Mm-hmm.
of my success, my raising my family, everything I do for me is just kind of an anomaly
Mm-hmm.
that I was blessed and graced with something. But I am joyous most of the time. I am free most of the time, even though I'm like, I don't wake up that way. And it's because of my practices. It's
Mm-hmm.
because of how I choose to what I choose to pay attention to and not pay attention to. You
Mm-hmm.
talk about you talk about, you have seasonal affective disorder. So
Yes.
like, you're probably a naturally happy person, but you have your challenges also.
Yes.
Square that with me, help me be human and joyous and free at the same time.
Mm-hmm. So you used a word which is a bad word in my vocabulary, and it's motivation. Okay, so motivation is very fleeting. It comes and goes. People think that they need to be motivated to meditate or motivated to go to the gym. You've probably read that Ann and I, we have a rule that we never, ever, ever ask each other, do you feel like running?
Right.
because we run. I'm going to come back to why we run in a minute. But this morning, when we woke up, it was blowing sideways, gusting to 60 miles an hour. And on Thursdays, which is the day we're recording this, we do hill repeats for 6.5 miles.
That's badass. I just have to pause and say that's badass.
Okay. But who is motivated to do that? I am
Right.
never motivated to do that, Mark, ever motivated to do that. But what happens is once you get outside, this morning, not so much, but once you get in motion and your body starts to limber up, once you've had your coffee and done your journaling and you're feeling a little bit more awake, then then you get some momentum, and the momentum leads to more momentum, which then leads to motivation. So motivation is actually a lagging indicator of stuff. It's not a condition precedent for doing something. A condition precedent for doing something is that you want to do it because it matters to you to do it. The work you and I do, it matters. I want to be on fire, lit up, engaged with the people I serve, which means I need to have these core practices or else I'm not. I want to feel strong in my body and alive. I love the feeling of my body moving across the land. Ann and I ran across the Grand Canyon and back, 50 miles and 20,000 vertical feet.
Rim to rim to rim. I'm so blown away.
So, but just moving through the land in that way is an incredible experience. So I want that experience. It matters to me. And the why of it is that I'm passionate about my work. Our why is our rocket fuel. It's what fuels us. And so when we know what we want and why we want it, then we make the decision that we're going to do it, and we don't worry about the motivation. And when we're living from that place, it is a place of joy. It is a place of deep satisfaction. It's good. Is happiness, you drew the distinction between happiness and joy. Joy is kind of your state, your default state. And it's, are you lit up about your life? Are you lit up about why you're doing what you're doing? Are you lit up about, the people I work with believe the best is yet to come? Do you believe the best is yet to come? From that place, there is joy. Does that mean every day is like really happy? No, there were a lot of sad times in these last 14 months. There are a lot of sad times in our lives. But when we are connected with what our deepest drivers are, and when we're healthy and well and connected with our humanity and our heart and our spirit, that's a great state to be in.
So when I ran the marathon, when I committed to running the marathon, it was because I was depressed and suicidal. And I had made the decision, because I thought I was going to die, that I wanted to make $1 million to leave to my family. And because I was separated from my wife and, sick, and I was having panic attacks, and I was going to run the Marine Corps Marathon because I wanted to show my kids what you do in the face of tragedy. And I couldn't run a mile. I made the $1 million. I ran the marathon an hour faster, and gave a bunch of money to charity, which was all my whole thing. Right. So, but when I finished running the marathon, I realized I was trained by this guy named Stu Middleman, who is an ultra marathoner. Your wife may know him. And I decided I wanted to run ultra marathons. Like, I found my thing, except my body couldn't do it. 4 surgery later on my foot, my back, and my body just wasn't built for that. And then, so that was about 12 years ago. I'm going to be 59. And, I'm downstairs in the basement with one of those balls that I have in my shoulder to unfreeze my shoulder and all that stuff. And then, I looked at you and your wife and how vibrant and healthy you are. And you're just a couple of years older than me. How do you manage not only keeping the vibrancy and the attitude, right? Because dopamine starts to wane as we get old, all the stuff that happens when we get older. How do you keep at it? How do you keep mountain climbing, keep running, and work through setbacks, injuries, any of that?
Yeah. So I don't usually entertain the question about getting older. I really don't. I mean, I'm probably in better aerobic shape today than I was when I was 30. And I'm 63. So I don't really think about the clock very much from that perspective. And we are both fanatical about wellness. If you asked us what our top 5 values are, number one would be wellness. And so we're always tweaking. And for so many about the people we serve, because I lived as a lawyer like this, wellness was something you got to after you got partnership or after you cleaned the garage,
Right.
or yeah. It's the cornerstone. It's the basis for it all. And so, eating. So when I teach it to executives, I use a triangle, the health triad: eating, exercise, and emotional well-being. With emotional well-being, that stuff we were talking about before, about meditation, grounding, journaling, prayer, whatever you want to call it, getting well grounded, your emotional wellness. And then the eating and the exercise. And regardless, people, we've had injuries and setbacks, but that doesn't mean that you get to sit on the couch and eat Krispy Kremes. You look for other
Right.
ways.
So like that's the question, is how do you think of it? So you get an injury, and the dopamine you get from running. I've never
Yes.
seen people more depressed when they can't run anymore and they like
Yes.
have to bike, and that just
Yes.
doesn't do it for them. How do you work through that so that you stay in constant?
So we do look for other ways. I mean, I'm glad you're not having Ann on this podcast, because she'd tell you about the really unpleasant story, and I would not like it broadcast on your podcast, where on the day after her appendectomy, I had her out walking as I was jogging. That would just not be a story that you'd want to tell out in public. But we both had serious. I had a very bad ice climbing injury where I broke some ribs. I couldn't run, but I could walk. I can get out and walk. Ann broke her, snapped her ankle on a not on a run, but on a weird adventure we were having. She was sidelined for 18 months in terms of running, but we still walked vigorously. We still climbed stuff. We still went to the gym and did our core work. And so, looking for the workarounds is the key.
That was the word I was looking for. So looking for the workarounds and being committed to the workarounds while you're repairing.
Yes. And I'm told that there is some possibility that one should also build in some repairing and rest time.
Yes.
Just I'm on information and belief. I'm told that.
Thank God you have your wife, right? Thank God you have your wife. So let me ask you, going from your lawyering, dadding, doing the midlife thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just burning the candles at both ends, just the world asking a ton of you.
Mm-hmm.
How did you become this guy? Like, what was the catalyst? What was, like, for me, the shift was, I had a breakdown, right? Mm-hmm. So the breakdown for me just showed me I couldn't run on the drives and motivations that were, the unhealthy stuff that was in me. Mm-hmm. And I had to find another way if I was going to survive and even thrive. What shifted you from being all things to all people, burning the candles at both ends, to now being the guy who actually understands that life happens in the space?
Mm-hmm. So there are inflection points, and you're asking about mine, but I just want to draw out the teaching point that there are inflection points in each of our lives. And midlife is, Dante says, in the middle of the journey of my life, I found myself in a dark wood with no clear way out. I mean, that is often what happens in the middle of our life. And yet there are seasons. And so that dark wood often comes not necessarily at a chronological order age, but in different places in our lives. And looking for those inflection points and asking ourselves that question. We started off today talking about this inflection point, which is the beginning of our roaring 20s. We have an opportunity now. It is an incredible opportunity to say, do I want to go back to the way things were in 2019? Or do I want to create something new? Because we have the opportunity, and each and every day we have the opportunity to do that. And sometimes we get like rammed up against the wall, and we know that it's not going to be the same again. And so there were a number of inflection points for me. I would say the biggest was becoming a single dad. I was divorced in the late 90s, and I actually expected that I would be the dad who saw his kids every other week and 1 week in the summer. In fact, I had burned myself out so badly that was almost like I almost kind of wanted that.
Mm.
But I ended up being the dad. I ended up raising my boys on my own, and that was a real journey. And it was like, wow, I can't do things the way I have always done them. I can't be so single-minded on career. I can't be so tunnel visioned in the way I'm living. I've got to be a dad. And so the evolution of growing into dadhood was a moment of awareness. When at the other end of that dozen-year journey, there was another inflection point, which is, okay, and this is true. I don't want to gender this, but this is often true for moms. They've invested their entire selves. And I got to the end of this 12-year journey, and it's like, my kids are grown, or they're growing, and they need me less and less. Who am I without that role? Because that started feeling very weird. And so that was another inflection point for me. And so probably the third inflection point was, even over this entire arc, while I was a really good lawyer and a really successful lawyer, and I had a wonderful law firm, the adversarial nature of the work never settled for me. And the linchpin into the world that I'm in now was that Anne, after we started dating, gave us as our first Christmas gift tickets to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within. And I said, I'm not going. I don't want to drink the Kool-Aid. I do not want to stand on chairs and sing. And I went and I drank the Kool-Aid, and I stood on the chairs and sang. And I was the one who was talking her into the 2-year Tony Robbins Mastery University. And along that journey, I was invited into Tony's world. And all of a sudden, all of the threads of my life, it was like, the tumblers in a lock, all of the threads of my life kind of fell into place. And I realized I could do that. This work that I'm doing now tapped into everything that allows me to bring the gifts I want to bring to the world in the biggest way. And so there are, for some people, I think, like that one moment. For me, there were, over a period of a decade or more, a number of inflection points that led me to the place I am today.
I like, it's different for everybody, but often it's a book, it's a program, it's somebody who spoke, and you walked out of the auditorium and you went, what did he mean by my thoughts are making me miserable? Like, what did he mean? And then you start to read and you start to explore. For me, go ahead.
I love that. No, I love that, because I actually forgot about this moment. So I came out of Cornell Law School in 1984. I loved law school. I immediately found law to be, I knew I was in the wrong place very early on. And my dad, who was very, very dear to me, and he and I climbed many, many mountains together, took me to a talk that was being given by a great photographer whose name was Galen Rowell. He was one of the great outdoor adventure photographers. And my dad bought me a book that I kept on my credenza in my law office. And Galen had this phrase in this book. And it said, I am privileged to live in a world. He was an adventure photographer, and I studied with him. I loved the man. I am privileged to live in a world where there are no firm boundaries between working, playing, and living.
Mm.
I had that book open for 15 years on my office desk. And I thought, that's the life I want, where there's just this beautiful harmony in and amongst the pieces of my life. Anyway, I interrupted you. I'm
No, that
sorry.
was beautiful. That was beautiful. For me, it was in Alan Cohen's book, Relax into Wealth.
Mm,
Uh, he said, what if you treated yourself the way you treat everybody you love in your life? And I was living in my apartment after being separated, and I was depressed. And I had $7 IKEA tables while my ex lived in
mm,
the $1 million house, right? And I had our old silverware, for, like, and I so and it was a badge of honor that I was the martyr in everybody's
mm,
life, right? I'm all
mm,
things to all people. And when he said, "What if you?" And I'm like, "That am I on the like?" I never even occurred to me to be on the list. Never even occurred to me. But that stuck with me, and that was the first glimpse of my children are precious,
mm.
and I'm precious. Like that never even occurred to me. I'm getting
Mm.
teary eyed thinking about it.
Yes.
But
Yes.
like it's those little things that stack up, and you go back and you go, "Wow, look at that thread that brought me to
I
now."
know. I know. I know. Oh, that's beautiful. And just tying two pieces together, the threads often will fall into place in those early morning journaling hours.
Always page 3 wisdom.
Oh yeah, but we get, and then that's one of the gifts is we begin to be able to see the threads, and from that we can create something magnificent with our lives.
Oh, absolutely. So this I'm going to go a little bit off topic because
Yeah.
this is just something I'm curious about you. So for me, self inquiry has uh, been the game changer. Like really
Hmm.
going in, questioning my thoughts, questioning my beliefs, questioning how I see the world, and I've gotten certified in Ho'oponopono, which is a Hawaiian protocol for self inquiry and disengage, getting to neutral in the world. I've been to the Byron Katie school, and so the work is been pivotal in getting me to stop hating people. Right.
Hmm.
I've done the immunity to change. Robert. Oh God, can't remember Robert's last name. Immunity to change, competing commitments, kind of thing. For
Hmm.
you, what tools do you use to if people can't afford to have us ask the questions,
Hmm.
like and
Yeah.
coach with us and work with us,
Yeah.
what tools, what books, what methodologies do you help people with so that they can question their own views on their world so that they can
I,
unhook
I,
that?
I love this question. So first of all, um, I won't train a coach unless the coach has a coach. I think, I'm meeting tomorrow morning, as I do every other week, with my coach, who I've had in my life for 14 years. Um, I think that all of us get way too close to our own stuff. And we need somebody, whether it be, and Ann and I have a relationship where we're great accountability partners for each other. Having an accountability partner, having a coach, having somebody who you can create. When I talk about coaching space with the coaches I train, I say, well, we create sacred space. We create space that is safe where we can do deep work because it's really hard to do that out in the world. So I think it's important to have a coach or an accountability person to be that sounding board. We talked about the importance of journaling and meditation and stillness, because I believe one of my coaching philosophies is nobody is broken and nobody needs to be fixed. And I think that the answers are within us. Tony Robbins has a wonderful incantation that is dialed in through NLP. All I need is within me now. All we need is already within us. And so if we can tap into that inner wisdom, and like you, I believe we have an obligation to be lifelong learners
Mm.
and to always be inquiring, to be students of the craft, to be studying, to be going deeper, and to looking for those sources. So you mentioned some favorites for me. Byron Katie is a favorite. Um, Martha Beck, her first book, Finding Your Own North Star.
Mm.
Looking for those resources. I actually, unconnected with our appearance today, had somebody ask me the other day about midlife, and I pulled out a book I pulled out, long ago and far away, that I had bought in Jackson, Wyoming, in a bookstore, about midlife. Looking for those resources, those authors. The way I found my own coach was I read her book, and I'm on the couch in my home, and the tears are streaming down my face. It's like, oh my God, there's somebody else out there in the world who understands. And I reached out to her. And so, reaching out to people who you think get you or get where you are. And there are so many resources out there. So I think the most important response to your question is lean into that place where you're feeling the draw, and be willing to be a beginner again, be willing to be a student again. So many of us come to our adult life and we're fully baked, and so we just need to kind of wallow in the mess. But I think we're always learning and growing, and we always have the opportunity to deepen our understanding, to deepen our connection with ourselves, so that we can deepen our connection with others.
Beautiful. Love it. So I'm going to actually put in the show notes some links to some of the things we talked about. I did a video on Julia Cameron's morning pages. So I'll put that in there. I'm going to put all the links to be able to find you and all that. What's exciting in your life now that you're looking forward to as the world opens up?
Well, we are going to go back, and we're going to run the canyon again in October, the rim to rim to rim. That's now become a favorite run. It'll be our third. We have some big mountains on the plan. We were going to go to Pakistan in June. We're going to put that off one more year. But
you're doing the 7 summit?
Yes, we've done 4 of the 7 summits. So when Ann said you're going to do this running thing, I said, well, you're going to stand on the 7 summits. So she stood on 4 of the 7 with me. So
did you see there's a young guy, he did a TED talk. He did the 7 summits in a record time. Mm-hmm. I forgot his name. Really cool kid.
Colin O'Brady, was it?
Yes, Colin O'Brady. Really cool kid.
He's back on Everest right now, attempting it without oxygen. I suspect he'll summit sometime this weekend.
My favorite thing about Colin is that he used that to translate to his impact in the world.
Yeah.
Right. So his TED talk. I'm going to put the link for his TED talk too.
The Impossible First is his book.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
So if people want to
looking for those places of inspiration, leaning into those resources and drawing from them.
Yeah, TED. Yeah, if you just sat and watched TED Talks in the morning with your coffee instead of the morning news, like how would your life change, right? Brian Johnson's Philosopher's Notes, which is what saved me when I was running, right? Like, there's so many resources that are so cheap and free that it can transform your life.
Yeah.
So, Walt, thank you for taking the time. Thank you for being so candid with me.
Thank you so much for the privilege of spending the time with you. You're an awesome podcast interviewer, and it's such a gift to spend some time with you. And I hope that this has been valuable to your listeners.
It's more than valuable. I like having people who can sell the things I'm trying to sell. Like when I sell my coaching services, I don't sell groundedness and centeredness and connected. I sell promotions, more money, more efficiency. I sell those things, and then I give them all these things right. So when I have someone like you who actually can drive the point home that there's freedom in discipline, right? There's creativity and discipline, and they'll listen, like they hear me saying it, and then you come on and you say it, and it just doubles down. So I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
To everybody else, your time and your attention is precious to me. I love you. Have a great rest of the day.